All right, guys, welcome back to another live show. Going to be a pretty awesome show today. We got a special guest, a good friend Val, the Bigfoot and Data Miner, or like his name says, Michigan Bigfoot Reports and Data. That's his Facebook group. How are you doing tonight, Val? Can you hear me okay and stuff? For some reason, we are not hearing you. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not hearing you at all, actually. Um, I unmuted you. What about people in chat? Can you hear us? We were just talking perfectly fine in the back. Make sure check your audio settings and stuff again, Val. It might got switched over. Um, it's kind of funny and stuff because we actually got on earlier and stuff and thought we figured this all out as actually my end. Yeah, I don't hear nothing on your end yet, Val. Um, why don't you just exit out and come back in? I'll add you, and then we'll try to go from there. Literally, guys, the only thing we did different was went live. That is literally the only difference that has just happened. So we'll try to work out these technical difficulties, and hopefully have a great show that we lined up for you. So fingers crossed and stuff. We'll hopefully get Val back in. He can talk. We'll be able to hear him. And get into man, a lot of the data and pretty cool subject matter. So we'll just wait on him real quick, and then we should have James call our kid.
Okay.
All good now.
You good?
I'm good. Can you hear us?
Yeah, perfect. Fine.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens when you're using these streaming services.
Yes, yes. But we're good now.
We are good, 100% good.
So this is a Saturday night.
Yes,
This
it
is a
is.
Saturday night. Chilly outside. Toasty warm here. Let's uh let's figure out what we're going to talk about here tonight. Where do you want to go with this?
Well, let's talk a bit about Michigan and stuff, as the name implies, and we're both here in Michigan.
Hmm.
I've been researching now for since my first encounter, so 20 years now. Um, and a lot of people might be surprised how there's a lot of Bigfoot sightings in Lower Michigan and some of these more populated areas and farmland, and where there's not much woods and stuff. What can you say about Michigan as a state with Bigfoot sightings, Bigfoot encounters, from what you've learned and studied, and maybe some of the differences you see in Lower Michigan, up north, and then up in the UP?
Well, the first thing that we want to understand is that Michigan is a state of approximately 10 million people. The more people you have, well, let's see, let's take our shoes and socks off and count on our toes. If you got 10 million people, how many eyes does that does that make available out there to see something?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. So most of the population lives, I would say, centered around southeast, southwest Michigan. That's where your population is. Based on my research, Blake, from what I've seen, and you've probably seen that spot map that I put out about a year
Yeah.
ago.
I might be able to bring it up here in a second if you
Mhm.
just give me a second.
Go ahead.
I know we got it. Just Okay, give me one moment. But yeah, you all right, there it is at my end. So yeah, you put this map out. You said what, about a year ago?
Yeah, it's been about a year ago.
Okay. Give me one moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's not the one I want.
All right. 3FBD5. All right, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I changed this view around. So here's the map.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there we go. We can see a little bit more.
So based on that map, I look at southern Michigan as being the corridor areas of Bigfoot activity, meaning that at your very southern area of that map, it borders Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois, and there's a direct correlation between those corridors. When you see the thickest concentration of those black dots, each one represents a Bigfoot encounter or sighting or report. That's a lot of reports. That's a lot of sightings. That's a lot of encounters. You look at the southwest um, edge of the state, and you'll see another concentrated area heading north. Um, the going back to the east, the southeast Michigan, Detroit would be just under the thumb. You see a hollowed, clear area there, and that would probably represent Detroit, this inner city Detroit. Um, you'll notice the direction of travel to a lot of this is movement towards the Tuscola, Sanilac counties and stuff, Mount Clemens and St. Clair and what have you. And just to the east of that would be Canada. Across the river, across the lake would be Canada. This is interesting to me because um, just as you see on the east, on the west, you have the same similar pattern. You have uh, a clear concentration of migration pattern movement, and they all seem to be moving in a northerly direction. Whether they head northeast or northwest, there's a clear um, pattern of movement heading north. And the fascinating part about this is that if you transpose this map, the spot map, with known native Indian burial grounds, there's a direct correlation. You'll see a direct correlation with the movement here. Why is that? I don't know. It's interesting. Sometimes answers to questions are best left to people to make their own uh, answers. But you'll see the activity on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan uh, that borders Canada to the east, borders Wisconsin to the west, and at some point somebody said there's more reports. I think I heard this from, who did I hear this from? I thought I heard this from BFRO or something. There are more reports up north, Upper Peninsula, than any place in Michigan. Really? Are you kidding me already? There's a lot in the Upper Peninsula,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also fewer people, fewer eyeballs, right? Eyeballs. It takes a person with eyeballs to make a report, and not everybody is going to report their experience. So you take what you can get, and that's the way it is. So from the point that I started in my research and study of Bigfoot activity and so forth, to date, there's 2,388 reports in Michigan. That's a lot. That is a lot. Considering last year, 2024, I have come across 35 reports. I thought there was 50, but I guess there's 36. I said 34. There's 36.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's
Now,
more than anyone taking count that I know of
that's
or
what?
could find. That's more. That's more numbers than any other group or person that I know of that is taking count.
Yeah,
in Michigan.
yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It comes with a lot of aggravation. It comes with a lot of annoyance. But you're familiar with my encounter, my experience and stuff. That was the impetus for my getting involved with this in the first place. This is Bigfoot research and stuff wasn't an aspiration that I followed, as a young boy. It's nothing that I grew up with and says, you know what? When I grow up, when I get big, I want to be a Bigfoot researcher. No, that's not at all what the case is. To be perfectly honest with you, that was the furthest thing in my mind. I know in my travels, in my lifetime, I know I've seen these old fish wrap newspapers at the checkout counters. Bigfoot, had my baby, gave me my baby or something. That's silly nonsense stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. You've seen it. Everybody sees that. But I really never gave it much attention. I know that I've seen the Patterson Gimlin photo of Patty before, but again, it was something that I really never gave a lot of thought to, seriously, until the day arrived when I retired and went out with Bob Daigle and told him, look, I'm retired. I got a lot of time on my hands. I'm a gumshoe kind of guy. I'm curious, like a curious George. I'm not from Missouri, the show me state, but I am curious. And I want to know, is this true or not? Well, this, that, and the other. And I says, would you mind if I, go with you out to these hikes and stuff? Well, that's when I met you, Blake. We did almost
Just about after that.
2 years to the date that I retired in 2014, July 19th, 2014. We're out hiking. It was a miserably hot, humid Michigan summer. Bugs and flies and everything eating us alive out there. And I know that we went through one container of off and bought another one. We were hungry. I might not have been real happy because I was tired. It's hot, sweaty, bugs biting, bugs all over the place. So admittedly, I might have been bitching a little bit, to be honest with you. So we crossed on a fluke. We crossed an agricultural field in a state park, Waterloo State Park, um, just miles from Ann Arbor, home of Michigan Maize and Blue. It's amazing how these things pop up so close to populated areas. We cross the field. We get into a tree line that hugs a little lake, swamp area. Swamp is important, as I learned later in my research. Swamps are always in the picture someplace. And we get into the tree line. We're walking through the tree line, and at some point, Bob and I both paused because we noticed that there were something flickering through the leaves, and it was too hot and humid to be raindrops. And he says, "Val, what was that?" I says, I don't know. Maybe acorns or something falling from the trees or something. I don't know why they would be falling through the trees, but this happened quite a bit. And at some point we moved forward. The bugs were just tearing us to pieces out there. And we got acorns falling on us, flittering through the trees up above. And at some point, we hear a loud crack, and I'm talking about a large crack, very loud enough to echo. It wasn't a twig, it wasn't a stick, it was a large crack. And we both paused at that time and echoed, what is that? Did you hear that? Yeah, I heard that. Let's keep moving. So we moved, and it wasn't, but I don't know, a couple seconds later, or slightly longer, maybe, a second report crack occurred. We continued moving on, and we came to a point in the forest, the woods, where there was this huge, large fallen tree. And to this day, I can't remember if I even looked at the roots on this tree to determine if it was a fresh fall or if it was just what we heard falling down. Or I don't know if that was the crack that we heard, but it was big. It was a big tree. So big, neither one of us were able to just step over this tree to get on the other side of it. You had to hop up and scoot your butt over to get on the other side of the tree. But directly on the other side of the tree was a large, like bramble bush. I had never seen anything like this before. It looked like a compilation of thick bushes hollowed out in a core, very deep, very long. It was to me it was a textbook example of a Bigfoot nest. Bob was on his hands and knees. Neither one of us carried a flashlight. It was bright sunny day, hot and humid. Neither one of us carried a flashlight. I know that he was on the opposite side of that tree. I was on the opposite side of the tree. He was on his hands and knees looking down to see if there was anything in it. I remember asking him, "Do you see anything in it?" "No, I don't see anything in it." But he was looking at it. And at that point, I turn around. I had a camera. I didn't have a recorder, a phone. I had a hand carried Kodak 35 millimeter camera. And I see this thing. I get this feeling of being watched. And I turn around, look back to Bob, and without telegraphing what I was going to do, I set the camera up to snap some pictures. And what I did was I turned around quickly and started snapping in a 180-degree arc. I'm looking towards Bob. Right now, I can't tell you what direction that was. But I know that I turned around quickly and started snapping. And And there you see what I seen right there on the side of the tree. Up above the tree, next to that, was a second individual with blonde hair, very long blonde hair. And I see this individual, and I don't know if you remember this, Blake, but I'm not the type of person to use a lot of vulgarities, profanities in my speech. But
Yeah.
I have to admit that my first response was, "What the f? What the f? Are you kidding me already?" Because I was shocked by this. I was shocked by this, and I didn't know what to think about this. I thought that somebody dressed up in a ghillie suit or something, and they were there to make a joke or whatever. And the thing was looking at me, and I was looking at it. Its eyes were blinking, but there was no expression, no emotion on the face. And then I started calling her a freak. I said, "You freak, you freak. What the f is this?" And I'm going to tell you something. I don't know anything at that point. I didn't know anything about infrasound or any of that stuff. I'm not experienced with that stuff. I was a law enforcement officer for 25 and a half years. That's what I did. I'm not experienced with this kind of stuff. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Um, I've been on homicides. I've seen my share of suicides, shootings, stabbings, bad accidents. Uh, I've been present at the Metro air crash. I seen the disaster, the maelstrom, the chaos, the death, the bodies. But I never seen anything like this before. And and I'm going to tell you something. Um, what I remember of this incident was me looking at it looking at me, and its lips are not moving. There's no sound. I smelled no stink. Nothing. None of those trademark Bigfoot signatures. Um, but I felt as though I was under the influence of something. I'm very lucid in thought, and I'm quite expressive of my feelings and thought, my sensations and stuff. But this is not normal. The feeling that I had was not normal. This was very. I got the feeling that this being in the presence of this thing was very, very powerful, overwhelming, and I kept getting these thoughts as though I'm being probed and questioned. Who am I? Who are you? And then I started thinking about these mathematical um, problems and stuff. And I'm going to tell you something. I graduated from Central Michigan University, and my strong suit was philosophy, literature, history, government, so forth, so on. My wife is the mathematician in the family. That's her strong suit.
Yeah.
You know how that goes. One complements the other. But
Mhm.
the odd part about this is I'm thinking of this stuff, and I feel like I'm being overwhelmed with these thoughts, these questions, even though I don't hear this. And so I recognize uh, what is going on based on what I've read. Um, Before this experience that I had here on this day, I did listen to Art Bell. I did talk to Pallades by phone about some feet that were found in Canada that kept popping up. Feet with shoes, excuse me, with shoes, body parts, because I was involved in uh, intelligence work, and I was doing research on a group or groups of people. And so I was listening to Art Bell, and he had Pleiades on as a guest. I don't know how I did it, but I was able to pick the phone up and called Pleiades from the office that night. And I talked to him, and I asked him if he ever heard about those feet and body parts and stuff like that. If that was because I found it doing deep research. And whatever he said, I don't know. It's not important right now, but I do know that some of my compatriots that I worked with, counterparts that I worked with from Canada, RMCP and OPP, they worked with me in Michigan, and I asked them about that, even after talking to Pleiades and stuff, and I got the cold shoulder, and I was told not to ever bring that up again. And if I bring it up to them, they would get themselves in a lot of trouble and stuff discussing that. So I never talked about it anymore and left it lie. And that's the way it was. But getting back to this incident in Michigan, at some point, it seemed like to me, and I've got the benefit of several years now since this experience to reflect, to think about it, gather my thoughts, because this really was, when you see something like this, it really is a landmark, earth-shattering realization, because it wasn't a man, it wasn't a person up there. It was one of those things that that I thought was a myth. I seen that stuff in the grocery store checkouts. It's a myth, a clown. It's that's what we were told. We were lied to. We were deceived, and I believed it until I seen this. What I felt was that I was under the influence of something that was way powerful than me, and it was not good. And I kept feeling this sensation of being talked to. It wasn't me asking question. It was something talking to me, although I heard no voices, no sound. And at some point I told Bob, I says, we got to go. We got to go right now. Well, what's the problem? What's going on, Val? What'd you see? I said, I'm not going to talk about it, Bob. I said, get me back to my car. That's all I want to do. Get me back to my car. I drove out here. We parked my car, I think at a McDonald's or something. Get me back to my car. I just want to go home. That's all I want to do. We got to leave now. If you do not leave with me, I says, I'll leave. I don't know how I was going to get back to my car. He's driving. But I says, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave you here. But I would not leave Bob there. But we're going to leave now. And don't ask me any questions. Just believe me. Let's leave out of here. We left out of there post haste. When we stepped out of the tree line and we stepped up to the agricultural field, we looked down and we see in that hard, dry Michigan clay, packed clay, we see a large impression, a foot impression. Bob and I both, we measured it. The photo's there someplace. We measured it. And I told Bob, I says, listen, I says, if that thing comes out of the woods on all fours, bro, I says, I'm going to have a heart attack right here. I don't want to see something. I do not want to see this thing.
Yeah.
It was big. Bigger than I've ever imagined something like that was going to be. But
yeah,
Blake,
how big was it? Because we have the picture here, and you're talking about the individual that's on this tree.
Yeah, I would put that at about 9 foot.
Yeah, because
Definitely.
the picture doesn't do it
No,
justice with the
no,
seeing it, like
no.
how big it is, and
But it doesn't do any justice, Blake, because it's off the ground,
yeah, right.
probably, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 feet. And when I see this on the side of a tree like that, I don't know if that thing's coming down or if it's going up, but I do not want to see it on the ground. And
That's better.
the footprint that we measured at the scene, I got a photo someplace. It's on the group site or something. It measured at 17.6, 17 and a half inches long in length. You take the 17 and a half, um, 17 and a half or 17.6 measurement, multiply that by the 6.5 formula, and it comes out to 9 foot. That's what it comes out to. So I get back to my car, and it seems like we were there a long time. It seems like time got away, and I couldn't tell you exactly what time it was that we got out there. I know it was light when we got out there, but it seems like when we were come out of there, it was getting dark, and that's summertime, so it had to have been late. But as soon as I got back to
Yeah,
my car, I mean, I didn't say a word. Maybe I was in shock or something. uh, I mean, I was in a bad
not to
way.
blame you.
I had nothing to say to Bob. I was very solemn, very quiet. He might have been talking to me, but I wasn't answering. Just get me back to my car. The first thing that I did when we said our goodbyes, I ran into McDonald's and got a cheeseburger. It's funny that I say that, but I was craving I was hungry. I was tired. I felt drained. And that's the reason why I think that maybe I was in shock or something. I wasn't planning on seeing this. I mean, you go out. How many times do you go out and think, you get all battle dressed and everything to slay a dragon, and you get out there and uh, it's nothing. It had to have happened so many times like that to so many different people. But the one instance where something does happen, and you have the opportunity to take a snap a photo. It's not the perfect photo. Oh, I didn't have the time to sit there and say, hey, can you stand over here a little bit so you can get a little more sun on
Yeah,
you,
pose for
and
me.
yeah, and I'll set the settings and stuff. It doesn't happen like that. You
No.
take what chance you got now. That's what you got, and that's what I did. And quite frankly, in a 180-degree snap, I caught it peeking at me. That's what I did, without show and
Yeah.
tell.
I mean, I think this is one of the best pictures out there, honestly, and needs more recognition and scrutiny. This photo could be analyzed by more professional people, and maybe we could get some better answers.
It's interesting you say that because, unbeknownst to me, somebody on Facebook took that picture, took it back to the UK, and sent it back to me, apologizing. Said, Val, I'm sorry I didn't ask permission. You didn't need to ask permission. It's on social media. It's there for everybody to see. I'm sorry I took your picture. I didn't tell you, but we had that picture analyzed, and what he sent back to me was a part of that picture you don't see, and he's got white lines circling 4 or 5 other individuals on the ground all around us, and I didn't even see them. I did not even see them. And so, to me, in my mind, when I reflect back on this whole sordid deal, um, that's where I got the impression that I got all these confusing thoughts and stuff, like something or somebody was talking to me all at the same. When you walk into a group of strangers you don't know, try that sometime. I live in the city. If there was a group of 4 people out on the sidewalk, strangers, maybe downtown, whatever it is, and I walk up to that group, they're all talking together, they're friends, they know each other, and I walk in there as a stranger. button my nose into their conversation, the first thing they're going to do is ask, who am I? Who are you? Who are you? Where'd you come from? And blah, blah, blah. This is what I got. This is the feeling that I got. It was so confusing. If you got 4 or 5 people talking at you one time, asking probing questions, imagine how you would feel.
Yeah,
And
being bombarded like that.
That's exactly what I felt like. It felt like, I know I've said this before, but it felt as though, and I told Janice Carter this. I said, well, she says, what did you see? What did you feel? I says, I felt as though it was peering into my soul. And I says, I felt violated. Well, no, I don't mean I was sexually assaulted or anything. I don't mean that at all. I meant that it was invasive. It felt as though somebody was standing over my shoulder, rifling through my computer files. That's what it felt like to me. If somebody walked up to you, Blake, and said, let me see what's in your wallet, and started rifling through your wallet. Oh, you got this, you got that. That's the way I felt. And it didn't feel good at all. So that explains when the gentleman sent that picture back to me, that explained where that confusing chatter was coming from that I didn't understand. What I did understand, because I was lucid in thought, I had been informed on different things. What I can say is that when all this stuff was going down and I felt the sensation of being drained of my energy and felt like I really felt like I could lay right down there and go to sleep, it dawned on me that this is what happens to people in the missing 411 books and stuff. They go to sleep. And who knows what happens to them at that point. But I felt like that. But I knew I wasn't going to go to sleep. And for the split second of me thinking, while all this chatter is going on, I thought about free will. Free will is a gift that God gives us as a child. When we're born, we're given a gift. You're given a gift of choice, and free will. The moment that I thought of free will and God's gift to humanity, that's the time that I felt the cessation. I felt the stuff's regressing, and I felt this easement of oppression. And I told Bob, I says, we got to leave. We got to go now. We have to go now. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me questions. I'm not going to talk. I'm quiet. I'm in shock right now. I got to go. Thinking back about this encounter and this experience, because I'm a chess player. I've studied strategy. I've been in the military, did 2 tours. I've always been fascinated with the art of war and strategy. And I was carrying a weapon at the time. I always carry a weapon. I know that it's seen me because that was where that thing was at. It's seen my right hip. My weapon was exposed. So in my conversation with Janice, she says it was reading you, and I says, what do you mean reading me? Well, you said it, you felt as though it was peering into your soul. And I said, I did say that. And she said, well, it was reading you to find out what kind of person you were. And I said, okay. So with all of that information given to me and that experience, I walked away from that experience with a deeper respect of those things, because they could have easily dismantled us out there. We were in their area, and the part of the picture that you're not showing there is a tall TP type structure. It's in one of those pictures. So we had a fallen tree. We had an obvious Bigfoot nest. We had this thing on the side of the tree. There was another one above the tree, and then we had a teepee structure. So, from my understanding and my research, I've learned that a lot of these teepee structures represent birthing areas. And this was a group. This is a multiple animal group that I like to look for when I'm reading reports, because that's important. Because we only talk about how many reports a person reports. You're reading a report and a person says they've seen a Sasquatch running across the road in front of their car and stuff. That's one Sasquatch. What you don't read, what the witnesses don't tell you about, is because they're not there, they drive on and stuff. They don't tell you what accompanied that Sasquatch that you've seen. And I don't believe for 1 minute that a lot of these cases, when you see one Sasquatch, they're by themselves, they're alone. That's not possible. They're always with a group and stuff. And we happen to be in a very, very unique situation where we walked into the honeypot of multiple animals. Yes, I said animals. So, do I want to see another one? No, not really.
You always tell me.
If look, Blake, if I had an apple in my hand and I take a bite of that apple and I tell you, yes, that's an apple. Do I need a second bite of that apple to confirm that that was an apple that I just took a bite of? No,
probably not.
No. Knowing what I know, more than 12 years later, reading and researching this, we talked about this off the air before the show. There's a lot of stuff that I have learned, and some of it is not cool. It's not cool. It's not cool. Whether people believe it or not, that's up to them. All I'm acting as right now is the messenger and sharing what I've learned. It's up to people to answer their own questions and stuff. I'll provide you the information, but you answer your own question. One of the things that we talked about tonight was, people post stuff, they make movies, videos and stuff, Sasquatch, beautiful, precious. They smile at me. I don't know that they smile. Do you? I never seen them smile at me.
I can't say I've never seen one smile at me.
I couldn't tell you if it was passing gas or smiling because it loved me. But if it lifts its gums and I see sharp teeth, canines, I don't want to see it smile anymore. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, probably be freaky.
So whether or not people rub the Sasquatch back and feed it blueberries and give it bubble baths and stuff like that, they're not pets. These things have been around a long, long time, a millennia. They've been around a long time. Do they like peanut butter? I don't know. I hear they like peanut butter. They like honey too. Am I going to feed them? No. Why? Because these things have been around so long, longer than peanut butter and honey. They've sustained themselves. They lived quite comfortably off the land, naturally, without the preservatives, without the coloring, the chemicals and stuff like that. Yeah, they've done this. They don't need my barbecue ribs. They don't need my fried chicken. They don't need my French fries. They don't need honey, peanut butter. They don't need any of that stuff. What you do when you start gifting, you call it gifting, when you feed them food and stuff, what you've done is you've done what so many people have done in the past. Excuse me. What you've done is what so many nasty people have done in the past. If you ever go to a public bathroom, and I mean, I do this. If it's dirty and disgusting, I don't go in there. You got some people that will go in there into that public bathroom and load it up and walk away. It's funny.
Yeah,
It's funny
I
to
mean,
them. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
when
We
you're
all have
gifting
experienced it.
Sasquatch, you're creating a problem to somebody else. You're causing angst and grief on somebody else. And you don't know how that affects that person's life. You don't know, um, maybe that family is hard pressed economically. They're living, by their own wits. Don't have two dimes to rub together, and yet you cause them by gifting and stuff. You cause them heartache that has effects that you won't even know. You won't even know, but you cause that on somebody. You start gifting, these things follow you home. And guess what? Your neighbors have to contend with this stuff. They didn't ask for that. You didn't go over there to your neighbor's house and say, hey, I'm going to be feeding these beasts. And they have a tendency to follow a person home when they do that. And when I stop feeding them, they're going to get nasty and angry. And they might trespass all over your property, and they might scare you too. That's Blake, it's unfair. It's just totally unfair for people to do that. And it's the same way that when I made the analogy that people go into public bathrooms and make a mess and leave it for somebody else to clean up. That's not right. That's not being a good citizen. It really isn't. It's not being compassionate. It's not being a good citizen. So, I don't do that. I never did it, and I won't do it. And when I'm talking to people and stuff, I share this with them because it's I seen it. I see it all over the place. We talked about the databases that I have. This database, this Michigan database in particular, is the largest in the state. Nobody else has a database like this. There's a lot of people that want
Yeah,
it. There's a lot of people that threaten me over it. There's a lot of people that get nasty about it.
that's just
Um,
ridiculous.
but uh, you know, it comes with a lot of grief. This computer right now that I'm talking to you is probably the sixth one that I've had. Six computers, three external hard drives, uh, um, four monitors. I mean, a lot of stuff. This is what I put into this, but I'm only doing this by myself. Somebody says, "Well, Val, why don't you do this for Australia and Mexico?" Well, because my Spanish sucks. My Spanish
it,
sucks.
it probably, the amount of workload it would add is just astronomical.
Yeah. I mean, if I had an army of help to do this, yeah, that would be a pretty cool thing to do this worldwide. Yeah, that would be a cool thing to do. Um, so basically, what I'm doing is pretty close to profiling Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and I do that by learning the dates, the times, the hours of the encounters, the locations, and by doing that, I can sit back and compile this information together and look at the seasons. I can look at the locations, and I can tell you this again, based on my research, that Sasquatch are like people. They're not people. They're like people in that they're creatures of habit. They're the ultimate creatures of habit, meaning they go to places they're most familiar with. So you mentioned this earlier before the show. People have a hard time wrapping this around their head. Where how is it that Sasquatch can surface in a large um, inner city, a large city, Chicago, Detroit, um, whatever city you can name? How does that happen? Well, it happens because, remember, uh, in the 1830s or the 1700s, there weren't any large cities. It was just terrain. It was just geographical terrain. Like monarch butterflies somehow, seemingly they know how to fly up from Mexico, come to the United States, fly around, flitter around, and then know how to go right back down to Mexico when the weather changes. How does that happen? They know. It's a natural instinct. It's either weather, it's either the sun, it's either magnetism. Um, a lot of birds are like
I
that.
say like birds are
Yeah,
like that.
birds are like that too. How does that happen? Well, you know, you know, nature is a mystery, and when we talk about Sasquatch and stuff, you know, there might be cities there now, and there might be houses, and there might be cars, there might be freeways and stuff like that. But deep down, deep down into their DNA, they know that at some point there wasn't any trees, there wasn't any houses, buildings, restaurants, gas stations. There wasn't any of that stuff. They know the terrain. Sasquatch, Sasquatch, in my opinion, is a linear being, meaning they follow straight lines like wolves. They follow the streams, they parallel freeways, roads, railroad tracks, utility lines, utility alleyways. They follow those. That's what they do. That's what they've been known to do. So, what can I say?
Well, how would how would you answer, like, well, how come we don't find more evidence if they're, surrounding or moving in between our cities and um all the hunters that are out there, all the drones that are out there. Everyone has a phone now. Like, um, is there anything that you've studied and stuff that could point to why, again, they're still hidden? The best footage we have is the Patterson film. It's been, almost 60 years, and there's nothing better than really that.
Mm-hmm. Well, all I can say is that right now, today, and again, remember what my background is, and I can tell you that at any one given time, there's hundreds of thousands of fugitives out there that never get caught, never get caught. They can't find them for whatever reason. They can't find them, even with all the modern conveyances and accoutrements of modern technology and stuff. They can't find these people, and that goes for missing persons. That goes for, and I, for one, who have a direct knowledge of this and direct experience with this, um, along with being a former law enforcement officer, I was a licensed private investigator. And one of the last things that I did, you probably heard this before, excuse me, one of the last things that I did before I retired was I volunteered to look for a young man that went missing out of Ohio.
Yes, you have told the story on here before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean, he was missing between 30 and 31 years. And ask any private investigator, and they'll tell you that somebody that skips out on a bill, a warrant, or anything, they call it skip trace. Anybody that does that kind of work, it's not easy. It's very, very difficult, and a lot of times it ends in failure. And I'm making a comparison of the two to illustrate difficult it is to find something or see something. In this case, we're talking about Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Um, it's of my opinion that um, people don't see what they don't see, and these things. Um, I've read this stuff about some of this parroted, excuse me, narratives of Sasquatch. They can only be found in the remotest isolated places.
Right.
I don't subscribe to that, Blake.
Yeah, either here because most of my experiences and stuff, and your experiences was not remote wilderness at all. In
No,
fact,
no.
it's you know a lot of lower Michigan's like that. It's not remote enough to really get lost in or anything. You'll hit a road eventually or someone's house and stuff. But yet
Yeah,
these creatures
you're not
are.
going to die out there.
No, you shouldn't get lost and die out there. No.
At the very least, you're going to end up in somebody's backyard at some
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
So how do they stay? How do they stay concealed? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not out 24 hours a day. I don't really care. I mean, I go home, go to sleep, and I like to sleep. Go home and sleep.
A
Throw
nice
my feet up
bed.
on the yes. I'm not. I'm out there. I'm not out there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, watching to see if there's any Sasquatch movement from tree to tree, field to field. I don't see this, and I don't think a lot of people do either. Um, but you know, when I talked about the freeways and stuff, did you ever see these? I'm sure you have. You've seen these huge roadway signs. Holiday Inn. 3 miles up, and take the next exit. You've seen those signs
Yeah. Oh
along the
yeah.
freeway.
Yeah.
A lot of reports come up with Sasquatch harboring underneath those things. There's trees around, um, scant bush and stuff, but yeah, there's a lot of reports of Sasquatch under those structures along the roadway. Again, along the roadway. Um, in a lot of fields, you'll see islands of. You'll see in a lot of Michigan areas. You'll see vast, flat. Um, Agricultural fields, especially when they're just plowed. You'll see flat areas, and then you might see an island of a couple trees or bushes and stuff. You've probably seen that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they harbor in those things, and they leapfrog from one place to another. Maybe a farm, maybe a tree line, and but I'm convinced that they live and exist and proliferate on the fringes of our suburbs and cities like that. And with the with the advent of cities, there comes a demand for what? And this is one of my majors in college. It wasn't Bigfoot, it wasn't law enforcement, it was community service, it was community development. So with the advent of population and housing, you need land. You got land. You develop a tract of land for houses. When you have houses, you have people, and to support the people, you have to have schools and stores and gas stations and hospitals, and it goes on and on and on. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
To support the population as it grows, you need roads. What do you make roads out of? Well, a lot of roads are made out of cement. Where does the cement come? They come from quarries. They start mining the quarries. Sasquatch being an aquatic um, uh, entity, they swim very well. When they break open these fissures in the earth, these things come through. There's a lot of reports, Bigfoot sightings and encounters around quarries, caves, mines, um, things of that nature. So, in order to support a burgeoning population, you have to have houses, people, roads, and you have the quarries, right? Now, with people, with an exorbitant amount of people, you have refuse, you have garbage. So you get so many people in metropolitan areas outside of inner cities and stuff that you start seeing these regional waste treatment places where they have mountains of trash refuse, and they got them all around.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that supports Sasquatch. That's food. That's sustenance. That's a resource. They got wildlife. They got water, especially in Michigan. People say, "Well, how come there's so many reports of Michigan?" Michigan, like Minnesota, is the Great Lakes state. It's got water. It's got wildlife. It's got sustenance. It's got people. It's with people come garbage. With people come pets, cats, dogs, whatever you got, livestock, whatever you got, it's there. So, um, has there been reports in Detroit? Yes, there's been reports in Detroit. Has there been reports in Chicago? Yes, there's been reports in Chicago. Um, um, there's been reports in a lot of build up major areas. Now, I haven't heard any reports recently in New York City, New York being one of the largest, most populated cities in the world. But I can tell you this through my research and study, I do recall a report in Staten Island, New York, of a Sasquatch. You know, people out there playing baseball, and a little Sasquatch goes in there and interrupts the game and stuff, and then it's chased from the area by a group of kids and stuff with baseball bats and stuff. So, yeah, uh,
Yeah,
it's a
there are
lot.
reports in city parks and stuff. I know a lot of the metro area parks is supposedly has Bigfoot activity in Michigan.
Hmm. Oh, I see it. You got some guests out there. So
Yeah, we
hello
got a couple
there to
people in
everybody.
chat.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting, and again, as we were talking before the show, um, through through my study and research and stuff, I've been in contact with people from Australia, Europe, um, and we talk about Sasquatch and stuff like that. You know, they got the Yowies over there, we got Bigfoot over here, um, and the only thing that seems to separate us is the big ocean, right? The big body of water and stuff. Do Sasquatches swim? Yes, of course. I like shrimps. A lot of people like shrimps. A lot of people like seafood. I like seafood.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
good.
People up in Alaska, it doesn't matter how cold it is. It's very cold up there, but yet these commercial fishermen are sighting Sasquatches swimming in the Bering Sea up
Yeah,
there.
that's. I mean, to me, that's a little crazy because
Mhm.
you die within
Mhm.
a minute or two
Yeah, I would
without a
think.
wetsuit.
Yeah, I would think. And then again, down there in the Gulf of Mexico, same thing. The shrimpers are reporting the same thing. So, um, this is not Bigfootery is not just isolated to Michigan alone. It's all over. Everything that I look at all the provinces, all the states of the union. The only state that I haven't seen anything in is Hawaii, and maybe it's a little bit too far to swim over there. But I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced that I'm not convinced that the oceans, the bodies of water, separate our continents like we think they do. Somebody asked me what I'm talking about. I'm itching to tell you. Do you realize in the state of Michigan, underground, below ground, below the terra firma, the ground that we stand on, there's vast rivers, vast rivers. How big are they? They're big enough that submarines are able to navigate below our state. Not only navigate, Blake, but but they're able to travel from Michigan up to the North Pole. How does that happen? How does
Well,
that happen?
I mean, I've definitely not heard that information, but I do know
Yeah.
like karst topography and this water aquifers and water
Hmm.
passages and cave
Hmm.
systems that can get flooded and stuff. It's a very new kind of niche science, and obviously humans can't really get down there, so it's hard for us
No,
to study
no.
officially. Anyways, I don't. Who knows what the government's capable of? But
So I guess my
yeah,
point to this is that when 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 we get engaged in conversations of Val, I don't understand what you're talking about. I don't understand how Sasquatches can even go into large inner cities. I don't understand how that happens. Well, and nobody sees them. Well, they travel through the water, sight unseen. You don't know what tunnels, uh, passages there are underground because you haven't seen them. We're not accustomed in Michigan to caves, but there are caves in Michigan. That's
mhm,
very well known. You mentioned karsts. Karsts are pretty much like sinkholes, and there are sinkholes in Michigan, some pretty vast sinkholes. And I'll tell you this, again through study and research, there's been a report of a gentleman who drowned in Houghton Lake, just went underwater. I don't know that if you've ever been around somebody that drowned, but the first thing that happens when a person drowns, do you know what happens? They
no,
sink. They sink. But when the gases in their body um, develop, they float like an inflatable tire, and they
right,
pop up.
right.
Right? That's what happens to them. So this gentleman disappears. He drowns in Houghton Lake, mid-state Michigan, upper, lower Michigan, and somehow his body reappears in Lake Michigan. How did that happen?
That's a pretty far significant travel time. I mean,
Hmm.
that's like a at least hour and a half drive.
How do we explain that? Well, he got he got he got into a underground river, with current and flow, and he headed out. Now, that's not the first time I've heard of something like that happening. Um, when I'm involved with Bigfootery, you know, Blake, I don't sit around and twiddle my fingers and watch Bigfoot videos all day long. That's not me. I don't do that. I very rarely look at Bigfoot videos. My interest is reading, and one of the books that I like to read um, are about um, waterways and stuff. And the author was his books are fiction, but they're nonfiction, but they're based on fact. And I'll tell you the reason why I say that is because in one of his novels, he wrote a book about some explorers who were both part of NOAA, National Oceanic Administration.
Yeah,
They go
yeah.
out and study the current, the temperatures, and all this, anything to do with the waterways, the oceans, and stuff like that. That's exactly what they do, and that is true. That there is such a federal agency like that. but that's the genre of his books. And he wrote this novel about these explorers that found himself in a cave in I want to say Wyoming or Idaho, someplace in the far upper west of our country, and they discovered a underground river. And what they learned about the river is they wanted to check the water type, decide whether or not there's pesticides and stuff leaching through the ground into this natural river underground from this cave. So they decided to bring all the equipment, the rubber rafts, and everything that they thought they would need for this exploration. And what they found in the cave and along the river underground was old Spanish conquistador armored metals and stuff, stuff that they used, the old 1600s explorers used when they founded this country. And they said that the raft, they followed the current underground from our upper west states, and it leaked out into the Gulf of Mexico. That's where it ended. That's where the exploration ended, all underground. And the reason why I say this is because um, later on, the same author wrote about a ship in Texas called the SS Zavala. What's my last name?
Zavala.
Mm-hmm. My ancestry goes back to Texas in the Alamo. That's my ancestry. To this day, Texas is a huge, huge state with over 200. I think it's got over 200 counties. Michigan's got 83 counties. Imagine 200 counties. Each
Yeah.
one of those states are named after somebody that was significant in the Alamo in the Republic of Texas. The SS Zavala was the first Republic of Texas naval ship, and it was scuttled out of outside of Houston, Texas, in the Gulf of Mexico, and then covered over dirt and stuff when they developed the city of Houston. And they only found it when they were building excavating for a shopping center and stuff. And that's the story about the Alamo. So we went all the way around the world here with Bigfoots. And I think we're talking about Michigan Bigfoots and stuff. So Michigan has 83 states. Every one of the counties in the state of Michigan have reported Bigfoot encounters or sightings. Every one of them. Some more than others, some less than others. Um, I think there was some interest or something about Bigfoot's being nice or violent and stuff. The database that I have, um, I'm not sharing the database right now, but I probably will on another show or something. But what I've done is the dates that are significant that are obliquely connected to Sasquatch, missing people, and deaths and stuff like that are shaded in red. Everything else is what it is. So when I look at this database, whether it's 2024 or 2023, I see everything. I go all the way down. And let's see, I'm down to 2018, 2017. The next shaded area in red, I see 2015, and that comes up to Genesee County. There's something there. When I look at that, it tells me, just by looking at this, it tells me that something significant happened there. And when I look at it just from the surface, um, I'm showing that I'm showing that a human being, a person, was found dead, hanging on branches of trees. This, when we're talking about items found in trees, I wrote a thread about this on my Facebook group site, and I think I labeled it ornaments and trophies. Things found, objects found in trees.
Yeah.
It's my contention, it's my theory that Sasquatch, when I said earlier in this program that Sasquatches aren't people. They're not humans. We're human. I'm human. You're human. Sasquatches aren't human. I mean, we can get into the debate about the DNA and the substance, the sources. 99% of that DNA, Bigfoot DNA, or 98% of that Bigfoot DNA is human. Comes from a human mama. All of us know that it takes a man and a woman to make a child. The issue here, the point of contention is if DNA, Bigfoot DNA is 98 or 99%, that's arguable, is human, and you tell me that you don't know what the father is, what are you supposed to do with that? Does that make that a human? No, it's something else, but it's not human. If the father is not human, how can the product be human? How is that possible? So that's another whole nother story. But getting back to this, when I said that Sasquatch are creatures of habit, that's an innate quality that human beings have. And I don't believe they're human beings. I don't believe they're people. But when it comes to things in the trees like this, that's significant to me. When I see this in a report, my eyes pop up, my red flags are all over the place. I'm looking at this, scrutinizing, and I'm looking for patterns. I'm looking for reoccurring patterns. This is one of them. Now, when I'm talking about things, objects found in trees, I see that as ornaments. We just, this is January, just a couple of weeks ago, we all celebrated Christmas. Most of us have a Christmas tree, and we take our time and adorn that tree with ornaments, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's pretty. That's
we
what
take
we
our
do.
time, and you
right.
decorate it, and has meaning behind it.
When I alluded to my work in law enforcement, private investigation, one of the things that I did do is I volunteered to look for a young man that disappeared. Had nothing to do with Bigfoots. I went into this wide-eyed, alert, and my only goal, my only reason for doing this was paying it forward. This is something that really pressed me. It touched my soul. It was in my heart. I called this woman from Ohio and listened to her story. 3:00 in the morning, I woke this woman up in Ohio and asked her to tell me everything that she remembered about that last phone conversation she had with her son. When she did, she cried, she wept. And when she composed herself, I promised her that I would look for her son and bring him home to her, knowing full well I didn't believe her son was alive, not after 30 years or 31 years. But it was something I was compelled to do. Something happened in my life that forced me to do this. Something. And I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand what it meant. But that was the choice I made. That was the promise I made, and I kept. It took me 21 months. And with the help of DNA, I was able to locate her son. And in that travel, I learned that he hitchhiked from Ohio to Daytona, Florida for rock and roll music, split up from his friends, and decided that he was going to hitchhike to Houston, Texas, to meet with cousins by himself, and that's what he did. And he disappeared in Louisiana. That's the last time that she heard from this young man. So now I get involved in this. I'm clearly out of my jurisdiction, and now I'm on the. I find myself on the phone with a administrator from the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Department down there, and it was quite the discussion that we had back and forth. And he knew who I was. I identified myself. He verified it. He vetted me. And now he wanted to know how he could help me. And I says, well, I need to make a missing persons report, because this gentleman isn't on the computer anywhere. He just fell off the face of the earth. And I know that he was in your jurisdiction. And furthermore, I says, your sheriff spoke with his mother 30 years ago and promised her that he was going to make a missing persons report and search for her son. And he says, well, we can't find a report, so we don't believe that he ever made a report. I says, well, how will that look if I go to the news and bring the news to your department and do a public relations movie here? It wouldn't look nice on you guys. I need a report number. The only way I can get a report number is if you guys receive a missing persons report from me 30 years later, 31 years later, so I can get this entered into that nationwide network, as it were. I'm getting to the point why this is important, what I'm telling you. And when I did that, I asked him who the scientist was that did their DNA testing down there. I need a name. Give me a name. Give me a contact. They did. I contacted the people, the scientists down there, and they explained to me, yeah, we do a DNA testing for all in-state agencies. Across the state of Louisiana, we do that for free for them. But for outstate like you, we have to charge them money. It's very expensive. And I said, look, I says, I'm doing this free gratis, meaning I'm not being paid for this. I'm doing this as an act of paying it forward. That's all I'm doing. And after speaking with them for quite some time, they understood what I was saying. And they said, look, tomorrow morning, 8:00 in the morning, be there at your house. We'll have Next Day Air deliver you some DNA kits, free of charge, free gratis. That's our way of paying it forward for you. So, Blake, when I'm talking about compassion for human beings and good citizenry and stuff like that, it really makes a difference. You don't start feeding Sasquatch knowing full well that they're going to take their misery out on somebody else that had nothing to do with that. Somebody that doesn't know anything about Sasquatches. You don't do that. You don't do that to your fellow man. You have to have some compassion for people. And as it were, I got the DNA done, went to Ohio, took the DNA sample specimen, sent it back in, followed it up with a phone call. Yes, it's good. You did a good specimen. We'll take it and test it. We'll run it, put it out all over the country. In the meantime, we would like you to talk to this woman. Who's this woman? Well, this woman is a retired Houston Chronicle crime reporter. Okay, I talked to her. She said to me, she said, when was your subject missing? And I gave her the date. She says, in that time period that your subject went missing, we were aware of no less than 26 serial killers working in that corridor, that Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana corridor, Interstate 10. Interstate 10 runs from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. I think it's the only interstate that runs from the West Coast to the East Coast. It's a long, long road, and a lot of people travel that road. So I mentioned earlier that I talked to Pallades on the phone, and he's talking about Bigfoots, and I'm talking about, hey, did you ever hear of these feet up there in Canada being discovered and found? Blah blah blah. I'm looking at in my research when I was involved in this search for this young man. I noticed that a lot of national forests and state parks along the Interstate 10 were just littered with bodies. Brother, you can't imagine how many hundreds of thousands of people today, right now, as I'm speaking to you, are left unidentified in these parks and these state parks and these national forests. I learned this just through my travels and stuff.
Seems like a very high number that the public doesn't know about. You know,
No.
you don't think about that many people going missing or bodies found or strange, suspicious circumstances and all that.
So 21 months later, I get the phone call, the dreaded phone call, and they want to know if I'm Sergeant Zavala. And I says, I am. Are you the person of record? Yes. For the person out of Ohio? Yes. Are you going to notify the family? Yes. Okay. My name is Dr. Pinto, and I got some good news and I got some bad news. I says, I'm decent in chess, but I suck in poker. Give me the bad news first. She said, homicide. And I says, okay. I says, the good news? She says, we know where he's at. And I says, where's he at? We got him. He's been a John Doe for 15, 20 years. We didn't know who he was. Now, when I went into this, I knew based on my training, my experience, my learning, DNA didn't come to the United States in 1980 when this young man disappeared. DNA came to the United States in the early 1990s, and it came to the United States from no other place but the UK. Where's Scotland Yard's at? The UK. That's where it came from. So the individual carried no identification. He disappeared, and now with the advent of DNA, they're able to identify this corpse, this remains. And so the whole incident for me was I look at it as my curtain call. You know, when you go to a play, you go to a movie or something, if it's a real good show, the actors that come out, the curtains will open up and the actors come out and they take a bow, don't they?
Yeah.
And they take the applause. To me, this whole experience for me was my curtain call. It was my way of saying, thank you for allowing me to serve you. You've been good to me. You know, I've taken my licks, my bumps, my broken bones, my scars, and I'm done. I'm retired. That's the way I ended my career, just like that. And so I got into the Bigfootery, and then almost a year to the day that I retired, I had this sighting, this experience, and it left an indelible impression with me to the point where I learned a lot of things about this. I learned that, even my closest friends suspected me of CGI. Are you kidding me? But I understood this as the gauntlet that people have to go through. The witnesses have to walk through this gauntlet of pain and stuff. And so within me, I have this special feeling and compassion for witnesses and stuff, because a lot of times I think that witnesses are like victims. They're victimized twice. They're victimized first by the shock of something like this, and they're victimized the second time by public, whoever they are, friends, even friends, calling them liars, ridiculing them, mocking them, But this is what you have to go through. This is the gauntlet that you have to walk through. Then, if you're bold enough and strong enough, you go public with it and share it with people. That's how it's done. But that's the pain that you have to walk through to share stuff like this. Because, to be quite honest with you, it wasn't in my DNA to get on the computer and on Facebook and identify myself. A lot of people know who I am. A lot of people knew me by what I did. And getting involved with Bigfoot and being associated with Bigfoot and Bigfoot people and stuff, no, that's just not that was not my forethought. I wasn't involved in that. But so here I am, and that's what I do. And is there any questions that you want me to chit-chat?
Yeah, if people have some questions in chat, let's hear them. I know there was a question about the book you were talking about earlier from the Noah guy.
Mm-hmm.
If that was Clive Cluster.
Exactly. Okay. Give that person a special award there.
Yeah, Texas Jack, he's a great guy. He's always in chat, good questions and stuff.
He likes to read books. He likes to read books. Exactly, Jack. You're right. 100%.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is Michigan is on the top 10 list of encounters.
I put out a thread because, and I only did it in response to what I've seen. It seems like every Larry, Moe, and Curly out there, according to their needs and according to their notion, comes up with this contrived top 10 list. What is the top 10 list? Well, if you're from Florida, they'll tell you that Florida is one of the top 10. If they're from Oklahoma, they'll tell you that Oklahoma is the top 10. And so I got tired of this, and I look at who some of these people are that put this nonsense out. And I did my own research and stuff. And Michigan is in that top 10. So is Alaska. So is British Columbia, California, Washington, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and I believe Ohio too. So it's interesting that if you consider Pennsylvania part of the Great Lakes states, I don't know, some people do, some people don't. Ohio and Michigan are right there in that honeypot of Bigfoot reports. Florida certainly has a lot, but they haven't broke that 1,000 mark yet. But let me see if I got it up. I had it up earlier today. If I had it up, I'd show you. Oh, right here. Name a state for me. Somebody name a state. What state are you people from that are listening? I'm from Michigan. We already know that Michigan has 2,388 reports.
Christina's from Michigan. Texas Jack is from Texas. He said he had his potential encounter happened 15 minutes outside of Houston city limits.
Okay. So is Texas Jack familiar with what do they call the big what is that famous forest down there?
The Sam Houston one?
Sam Houston, yes. The Big Thicket, they call it.
Big Thicket, yep.
The Big Thicket. Okay, let's look at Texas. Texas Jack, if you're listening, how many reports do you think that Texas has? I'm not hearing you.
I don't know. I mean, I would say, they're kind of up there. Seems like East Texas has a lot of reports. Especially back in the 90s.
Let's see. Somebody was asking me from New York about that, and I told them New York has 716 reports. That's a lot. tiny state like New York, when my wife and I went out to the East Coast, New York is a small state, very, very small state in comparison to Michigan or Alaska, Ohio, but it's very, very populated.
We got Texas Jack says 300 for Texas.
300. Okay, well, let's see. Let's see how close Texas Jack is. I got two screens here, so I have to look on the other screen. And for Texas, he said 300.
Yep.
And well, he's close, but it's 1,185.
That's a lot. I think that's a little bit more than what the BFRO puts out.
Well, you know what? That's funny you mentioned that, because
all of the numbers you got.
Somebody tell me what BFRO says for Michigan.
I think it's just 200 and stuff. It hasn't been over 300. I'll look it up right now.
I mean, one time I was looking, there was 265. The next week I was looking at it was down to 220. So
yeah,
I question.
All right, so Michigan has 225 is what it says right now.
Okay, tell me what report number. What's the latest report number on the most recent report?
Texas has 259.
What did I just say?
Over 1,000. That's a big difference.
Somebody tell me look at the most recent report and tell me what the report number is.
They got for Michigan report number 72,265.
Okay, what's the date on that?
The year was 2022, 2023, 2024. Looks like I have to read because it looks like they might have.
My question. Again, I'm just a gumshoe guy. I'm a nobody. I'm a nothing. But my red flags go up when if you go out of the BFRO website and look for the most recent report, and then tell me what most recent.
Yep.
What is it?
Give me a second.
And then tell me what the report number is. I'm gonna do an interesting little point here.
Recent additions. It looks like recent report was December 1st is when it was reported on the website. And we got November 2024, October 2004, Virginia, Montana, and October 2004 for Tennessee.
Okay, just give me the most recent, the last report under the most recent. And then read the report number.
77,879.
Okay. My challenge to anybody listening. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, let's hear it.
My challenge to anybody listening to go into that website and count every report that you see in there and see if it comes out to 70,000. My next point is to question, where's the rest of them? That's the issue I have with this.
Right. They said that there's this the real database is like under lock and key, and you gotta have special access, and that has all the reports and like reports of Bigfoots and UFOs that are not put on the actual website, or Bigfoot doing magical things and stuff like that.
For somebody that spent their entire, I can honestly say this, somebody that spent their entire adult life in government, whether it's military, whether it's civilian, report numbers are very, very important. They're critical to an organization. they're like key control. Key control is the creme de la creme. That's very important. Without key control, you have no organization. Report numbers are extremely important, extremely. And for every report in a organization, especially a government organization, you can bet that those are audited. If you had a bank account, if you were a fiduciary, and I'm not an attorney, I'm just going over rote memory. If you were a fiduciary, say the master of some nonprofit organization, and you showed the public that you had $70,000 in a bank account, and to the public, when you're audited, only account for 6,000, don't you think red flags would be raised?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean,
It would raise some red flags, some questions.
But the official narrative is, well, these don't fit into like the BFRO's narrative of flesh and blood, North American great ape that, they don't really have any violent reports or anything. I think they believe on their website we could watch and it says, they're like friendly forest people that herd deer and leave people alone.
Well, I'll tell you this. I distinctly remember reading a BFRO report of an incident that occurred in Georgia, one of the large military bases down there. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but it went something like this. A military helicopter went down in the swamp, in a thick swamp. You're talking about violence, right? They don't report this stuff. The helicopter went down in a deep swamp, deep, thick swamp, very, very hard to get to. And it crashed. And for those that have been in the military, they know that when things like this happen, it's not the police that go out there. It's not the fire department that runs out there. It's military. Whatever they had on board, they do not want public. They do not want civilian people to have. It's their business.
Right.
As a private citizen, I'm speaking about me now. It's not my business to know what their business is. But, if I can help, if something like that happens, yeah, I would volunteer as a good citizen. It's a noble cause to volunteer to help people. That's what you do. It's very noble, very, very noble to volunteer. Okay, so the report was that a chopper went down. It had crew member aboard, and it just so happened that it was one of these times of the month or week that there was no response team available. Like when you're around a military base. I served a lot of my time overseas and stuff, but yeah, we've had an occasion where a chopper went down, and the first thing that they do, it doesn't matter if you're on leave, if you're off duty or not, get your fatigues on, get your uniform on, and get together. We're mustering up a force. A craft went down, and we got to go out there and secure the scene, just like the civilian law enforcement. If there's an accident, a crime scene or something, you go out there and protect the scene. That's what your job is. But as a soldier, you're doing the same thing. The only difference is they're grabbing every Larry, Moe, and Curly that they can find, at arm's length to get together. And this is a response team. Go out there and secure that team until the officials come out there to do their thing, investigate and all that kind of stuff. In this case, a chopper went down, allegedly, and the closest air base, the closest military base that was able to respond was out of Texas. I don't know if it was Fort Bliss or where it was, but it was out of Texas. So they flew them into Georgia quickly because the people in Georgia, I don't know what the deal was. They didn't have the people or something. I'm not for sure what the particulars were, but they flew this response team from Texas into Georgia to locate the scene, the crash scene, and secure it. And they had military police. I was military police investigator when I was in the military. First tour I did infantry, second tour I did military police. That's what I did. So they sent these guys into the swamp. They're wading through the swamp. These are armed men. They're going to find this crash scene. They come upon the scene in the swamp. It's still burning, smoldering. Anybody that's been to an aircraft crash knows that the scene is pretty bad. The stench of jet fuel and stuff is thick in the air. The fires don't go out. They're just burning. Metal on metal, it's burning. And in this case, you had crew member aboard, and they're dead, and they're burning. According to this report that I read, the military police get out there before the law enforcement does to secure the scene, and they hear knocking, pounding, and twisting metal and stuff. They hear this before they see anything, and they come upon the scene, the twisted metal, burning debris and stuff, and they smell the stench in the air. The worst thing that a person can smell is the smell of human body decomposed, and especially if they're burned. You'll never ever forget that smell, ever. You'll want to wash it off, and you can't hide from it. You have to change your clothes and bathe over and over again. So they come upon the scene of the crash site, and they see some Sasquatches. They're removing metal from that crash scene, and they're taking charred bodies out. And one of the soldiers claimed that that he either fired on it or was going to and was told not to by the leader of the group, the squad that went out there. And somehow he made a report, and this is what I read. I'm just paraphrasing what I read.
Mm.
And the next day, the report got changed that the soldier claimed he did not see the Sasquatch and was told not to report this, because of what's going to happen to your career from here on out. You report this, you say these words, you say that magic word, and this is what's going to happen. So, yeah, I remember that. So when you say that, and I don't believe for 1 minute the Sasquatch was pulling charred bodies out of flesh to rescue them or to give them mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Yeah, there's some dark implications,
No.
smelling like dinner time is what I'm
No.
guessing. Like other animals,
No.
like
Well,
the wolves and bears probably would have
so
same kind of thing.
So whether or not somebody, it's not me that sits back and says this report is bona fide 100% worthy of considering a Bigfoot report and this one isn't. To me, it's all subjective. It's all subjective. But I can tell you this, and I've made a list before. Anybody that goes on my group site will see this. I made a list, went through the pain and stake of writing this out. What I consider to be aggressive, and there seems to be a lot of blurry, fuzzy lines about, well, what do you consider aggressive.
Right.
What I consider aggressive, you might not consider aggressive.
That's
But I
true.
base my opinion on having worked in, you know, worked among people for 25 and a half years. I know what aggressive is. I know unquestionably that if you went out there and started stalking, following somebody, peeking at them behind a tree, you go to jail for that. You go to jail for that because it's concerning to people. It's frightening to people. I know for a fact that if you were 9 foot tall and all hairy and growled at somebody, you'd likely go to jail because it doesn't matter if you being 9 foot tall and hairy and growling at people. It doesn't matter if you lifted your finger up and touched somebody. It's the idea that you're that big, you're that ominous, that you could logically hurt somebody, destroy somebody, and you're showing aggressive undertones. That's that's an assault. That's an assault. You throw rocks, 20-pound rocks at somebody. You're not doing that to say hello. You're not doing that to say hello. That's a death. That's a death knell.
Yeah, you get prison time and stuff. You throw rocks at another person
Go
and
up to
cause
somebody.
bodily injury.
Yeah, you go
Or
up to somebody's house, prowl around at somebody's house at night, peeping in their windows. You go to jail for that kind of stuff. And yet, some people don't see that. That's not aggressive. It is aggressive. You wouldn't accept a stranger prowling around your house at night. Why would you accept a Sasquatch doing the same thing? If a stranger came to your yard and took a bite out of your dog or your cat, um, is that aggressive? Would you see that as aggressive?
yeah,
That's not
yeah, a little bit.
that's not normal.
So is this we just under this like cultural assumption that they're these friendly forest hippies and that they if we leave them alone they'll leave us alone and kind of sort of thing. And the reason why they look through windows and they watch kids and all this, we make excuses for it. It's like, well, they're curious, or they're like people and they want to watch us, but they don't mean us harm. What would you say to that kind of logic?
Well, uh, look, we live in two different worlds.
Or like they throw rocks at me, but they
Mhm,
never hit me.
mhm, mhm.
So they are they being aggressive, or they just want me to leave because they. What would you say against that kind of logic?
Well, Blake, I would say this: if and I don't want to say these words on this media because it gets exaggerated and everything else. But if somebody pointed a weapon at you, does it matter if they smiled at you first, um, and they shot at you, whether it was with a bow or a slingshot or a firearm? Would it matter? Would you
Yeah,
interpret
yeah.
that as aggressive, or would you consider that as a solitary a simple hello? You
Right.
gotta look at these things like this. Um, it is what it is, and it's up to each and every individual to reason with this stuff and think about it logically and stuff. A rock is a rock. It doesn't matter if it's a stone or a rock. If the thing is big and if it's powerful, and we know it is, we know it is. It doesn't matter if it's a marble. He can drill that marble and put it right through your body. It becomes a weapon, a missile, right? So, yeah, those are aggressive acts. Uh, some people say, yeah, well, I seen a Sasquatch swaying back and forth, swaying back and forth. Well, I can tell you what that means to me. only because I was in the people business for a lot of years, and I usually seen the swaying back and forth before somebody gets their mouth busted or their nose busted or something. That's what I seen. With the fists clenched and stuff like that. Yeah, the rocking back and forth. That's positioning.
I think chimpanzees do that before they when they get riled up and stuff, they start shaking back and forth.
That's what I see. That's what I see as aggressive. House pounding on a house. That's not friendly. That's anger. That's aggression. Climbing on somebody's roof. That's aggressive. That's not nice. That's not welcoming. Pounding on houses, screaming at me. I mean, if somebody stood on the sidewalk and screamed at me like as loud as they scream, no, that puts the fear of God in you. It's make many a man tremble at the knees. They call it jello legs, loose bladders, all kinds of stuff. That's aggressive.
So what do you what do you think about all the researchers going out there trying to basically poke a Sasquatch and trying to get evidence? And what are some recommendations that you would try to give us to successfully get evidence, maybe get some good interaction? I know you probably don't think any interactions would be a good idea, but what's some steps maybe that researchers could take that could get us closer to discovering things without getting ourselves hurt or something like that? We just had these two people went missing and they died looking for Sasquatch, and the official story is exposure got them and they weren't prepared enough.
Well, again, you and I were talking before the show about this, and my point with you was that nobody's ever done a show. Nobody's done a thorough compilation of the number of Bigfoot researchers that have disappeared or died as a result of what they're doing. And it happens. And it happens more than people think. So this goes right back to, what do we think Sasquatches are? And my response to a lot of that, we talked about this. If I had an apple in my hand, I took a bite of it, I can tell you that's an apple. I seen a Sasquatch. It was hard. It was hard to come to grips with reality. Reality is a it's a miserable thing. It's cruel. I wasn't ready for this. I mean, yeah, I was curious and stuff, but when I seen it, it was tough. It was tough coming to grips with this. And it took a year for me to go back out in the woods after this. I didn't want to go back to that location. No, not me. Leave that for somebody else. Do I want another bite of the apple to tell you what it is? Look, if I'm going to say it like this, I'm going to be very, very blunt. So forgive me if I'm blunt.
All right.
If somebody took a turd and put it on a piece of bread and said, "Hey, Blake, take a bite of this. This is good. It tastes good. It's good for you." You don't need to do that. You already know that it's bad. Yeah. You already know. You're not going to do that. People do what they're going to do. They're going to look for Sasquatches and chase an entity. We know that Sasquatches, I know, maybe a lot of people don't know this, but I'll say it like this. They're not angels. What angel do you know lurks around in the dark and is afraid of the light? Light seems to be the only thing that holds that thing at bay. Why? If it's an angel, why would the light, the bright light, hold that thing at bay? That's not an angel. Angels don't growl at people.
Well, some people think they're like Nephilim or evil spirits or, that kind of demons or something, or
Well,
spirits of the woods.
I hate to
There's a
say this.
long list of
I
the
hate to say
dark
that.
side.
Yes, but I hate to say this, and I don't know if your listeners heard this or not, but when you get involved with Bigfootery, it's a deep, deep rabbit hole, and you learn a lot, you find out a lot, and it really is a made for Hollywood show, because there's a lot of mystery, murder, intrigue involved in this stuff, and it really is a high stakes game of very, very powerful, influential people that are involved in this. And you mess around, you play around, and keep chasing these things, and you might get some immediate satisfaction from that, but I'm satisfied doing what I do right here, right now, chit chatting with people, sharing with them what I know. We talked about Mr. Um, the oil man from Texas and stuff.
Yeah, the guy who died in the plane crash.
Yeah, yeah. And the deeper you look, the deeper you research, you'll find out that there's all of that stuff that I mentioned involved in this, all of it. And there's some things that aren't meant to be disclosed and known. And for instance, we were talking about the Bigfoot researchers and stuff. I remember a case. This might be out of Arkansas. This gentleman that went back to his neighbors, told the whole neighborhood that we got Bigfoots around this place here. We got Bigfoots around here, and he says, I'm going to go back out and I'm going to prove it. I'm going to show you. I seen great big footprints and this, that, and the other, and he disappears. He's gone. He is gone. He is gone. There's cases where the whole neighborhood's this lady disappears, and the whole neighborhood points the finger at Bigfoot. You know what? She didn't go missing until after we started making these reports. Bigfoot lurking around these neighborhoods and these towns and stuff, and we think that she fell victim to this. There's a lot of this stuff. I was just talking to a gentleman last week, pretty intriguing guy, and he was telling me out in Montana, he's the Sasquatch that he's seen and stuff. He swears that he's seen the group of Sasquatch that he normally sees around his area. He's seen a female. And I said, what do you mean a female? Yeah, I seen a woman. A woman. She looked at me, I looked at him. No, she wasn't wearing clothes, but it was a woman. It wasn't a Sasquatch, but she was with a Sasquatch. And it was almost as though I got the impression that she was captive. She was captive to this. Now, there's a similar story that comes out of Canada many years ago, where there was a tragic plane crash, and there was supposedly everybody that died in the plane crash was accounted for, except a small child. They know that there was a small child aboard, but that child wasn't accounted for. You got X amount of corpses, but we don't have a child here. But the itinerary says that there was a woman here with a small child. Where's the child at? Then, mysteriously, 6 years later, there's a report of Sasquatch seen with a little boy. Looked like a little boy, a 6-year-old. What a little 6-year-old boy would seem like. with Sasquatches and stuff. So all of this stuff, there's a lot of stuff involved in Bigfoot research. A lot of stuff. A lot of it is strange, stranger than I would ever guess. And sometimes I question myself as to, do I really want to know this stuff? You know, it's such as, for instance, there's been reports of Sasquatch. Of course, there's been reports of Sasquatch seen in company of wolves, and there's been reports of Sasquatch in company of, sorry, black salamander, big black salamander. What does that mean? What are they talking about?
Yeah, and you're talking about a pretty significant size, like salamander type lizard creature, like what, 10, 20 feet long or something like that was the report.
You know, it
And
didn't
that was
say.
up in Alaska or
Well, it was
Canada.
like Wyoming or some state bordering Canada.
Okay.
And I think I seen 2 reports like that, and it really shook the witness up. So a lot of times, Blake, people are talking about witnesses and stuff, and I'm going to tell you something. One of the things that I explained to you tonight was that besides the Michigan Bigfoot database, I keep a what I call a reference book, and the reference book is a database, almost like an encyclopedia, with over 237 data points. And each one of these data points represents a key word. When I tell you that I analyze reports and I examine them and I weigh them, when I read through these reports and stuff, and I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of reports, I'm looking for 237 different keywords that pop up. I'm looking for those words. That's what I do. And so you populate this database, this reference book, with all these different topics, and it's amazing. It's amazing the type of stuff that one will see. And I've got it open right now because that's what I was working on this evening. But I was sharing with you some of the topics that I look at. And maybe some of these topics are something that people have heard, but really never thought about. For instance, I'm looking at, and these are all alphabetical order. Some of these are abductions, abandoned buildings, aggression, aircraft, all fours, ambush. There's a significant amount of information on Bigfoot females in particular, Bigfoot males fighting, Bigfoot intelligence, nighttime, Bigfoot poop, recognizing people, Bigfoot recognizing people, regional names that people have called and known Bigfoot as, because you have to understand for each region of the country, our country as well as Canada, everybody has their own name. And so I needed to know from region to region of what different people refer to Sasquatch as. And that's what I've done with this. Bigfoot sleeping, reports by bicyclists and motorcycle riders. Big cats have always been a report, part of Bigfoot reports for whatever reason. I don't understand what that is, but because I've seen it so often, and again, I'm looking for repeating patterns over and over again. This is part of profiling, and that was significant to me. Bigfoot calling, the different types of things that people do to call Bigfoot. A lot of people report Bigfoot sightings and encounters that are out there hunting, whether it's for coyote or deer. When they start using these calls and stuff, they're actually calling in Sasquatch too, because they're hungry, right? They understand what those calls of stress are, so they're coming out there to check them out, and they have sightings and stuff. Birds, the different birds that show up around Bigfoots and Sasquatches, that's pretty interesting. That's when I say that Bigfoot is a huge, deep rabbit hole that you can get into. A lot of things, such as incidents where they're dead bodies, or you suspect Bigfoot being involved in dirty, with people and stuff. There's an interesting confluence between birds and Bigfoot. It's like crows. Crows are very, very intelligent birds. They're a nuisance,
yes, they are.
but they're intelligent, and they tell on they tell on people, and Bigfoots too. And they're around, and they've been on the scene of several incidents where, for instance, this is a nice one. They're looking for a missing child or a missing hunter or something in the woods, and the search and rescue go out and look. They can't find anything. They record the area that they search in, and by chance, another group goes out, and they hear the squawking of a crow, a raven. They look down, and they see what they see on this rock is the missing man's belt, like a leather belt, all roiled up into a nice, neat coil with the missing man's glasses, and a skull. Now somebody can argue and say, well, maybe a big cat did that. That's what chances somebody with nimble fingers and dexterity put that together. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. That's the kind of deep hole that I'm talking about. This reference book gets into blinding Bigfoot, blood samples, boating, bone stacks. That's interesting. Bouncing vehicles, braided hair. Who's heard of Bigfoot braiding their hair? It happens.
Like people's hair?
No, their hair.
Oh, Bigfoot's braiding their own hair.
Dreadlocks and stuff like that. That's interesting. A lot of the stuff, man, it's carcasses and diets. That's a big one. It's interesting to me to know what kind of animals they favor. And it's virtually every animal out there. Anything that walks and squawks, it's game. No pun intended. But I like to know what kind of vegetation they eat. Sasquatch, in my opinion, have taken a liking to bear. If you go out in an area, if you got bear, there's likely no Sasquatch there, because Sasquatch, they have an extremely sensitive sense of smell, as do bear. And bear to Sasquatch is dinner. It's a big dinner. A lot of people that I've talked to, experienced hunters and stuff, they tell me that bear flesh, I've never eaten bear. I don't think I ever want to, but they tell me that bear flesh is almost like human flesh, and that's no to me. But the fact of the matter is that bears target small baby infant Sasquatches and eat them every chance they find them, just like bears would do to baby cubs of a boar, a female, not a boar, but a
Sow.
a sow.
Yeah, the males would eat the kids.
Yeah, well, they would do that with the Sasquatch babies too, and Sasquatch being extremely loyal and vindictive, they don't forget that. So they, in turn, there's a report out there of an individual watching Sasquatch Sasquatch juveniles taunting and poking at a bear, a female bear with cubs. The first thing that she's going to do is attack and charge. That's natural instinct.
Yeah.
What the female bear did not know was the bigger Sasquatch were lying in wait. This was a trap, a setup. This was strategic, and it was a matter of strategy, and it was a matter of hunt. So the Sasquatch were using their young juveniles to provoke a charge by the bear, at which time they came out and pounced on the bear, killed the bear, and everybody came out, the whole clan came out, and that's dinner time. That's what happens. There's a lot of reports of that. There's a lot of reports of Sasquatch chasing, hunting bear, black bear, doesn't matter, grizzly bear. There were reports of people questioning why they seen, especially in the upper west part of the country and into Canada, why they seen Sasquatch, but Sasquatch seemed to be carrying a huge piece of lumber. And as I read, some of the elder Native Indians said that the reason why they do that is for grizzlies to beat them with a piece of wood, and then twist their neck up. Now, I can tell you also in Alaska, there's been cases where they found huge grizzly bears with their neck twisted like a rubber band and hidden under moss and stuff. And to every experienced tracker that's seeing this says a grizzly doesn't do that. A grizzly couldn't do that. Couldn't twist a neck on a grizzly like that. And then carry the thing and hide it under moss like that. It's impossible. A lot of cases like that. Within this reference book, there's caves, many reports of Sasquatch in caves. There's many reports of explorers spotting Sasquatch, whether it's caves or those lava tunnels and stuff, and they find human remains inside there, bones and stuff. So as a gumshoe guy, I look at this and I think to myself, well, some people would say, well, you can't prove that a Bigfoot did this. Well, if you go into somebody's house and you go to somebody's house, their domain, and you see a skeleton there and the person's nowhere around, it's like a thief running out of a donut shop with white powder all over their face, and you telling me that how could I prove that he stole those donuts? It's all over his face. It's just a matter of inference and deduction and stuff. You don't have to be a wizard to figure this out. You just have to use your head.
I think some of the problem is, people, it's, they're not being told by the TV or the official story, the official narrative. That doesn't happen. I think some people would probably think, that, you know, there's hardly any evidence of people going missing from Sasquatch. But
Mhm.
you know,
Well, I think myself, if people knew the extent of this, it would not be good. It would not be good.
what do you
And
think that? You think there's a huge population, or just
uh,
everyone's going to go crazy and they can't control us when we're scared? And
yeah, I think it would cause distress with people, don't you think? I absolutely think that.
if there was a huge population, you know, if there was just like, you know, 3,000 Bigfoots in all North America, you know, the chances of you coming around it was slim. I mean, I don't see how people would see it more scarier than a grizzly bear that you would never really see. But if the
I just
numbers are a lot more closer to home, that would cause panic if there's a Bigfoot in everyone's backyard or back forest.
a friend of mine asked me a couple of weeks ago to look at this paper from Tim Baker. Do you know who Kunbo is? Tim Baker.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard about him. Yeah.
I seen his paper, and she tells me that this was 10 years old, but it was very well written, and him being a NASA engineer, I would expect nothing less. But it was a very well written paper document, and I think he went through the effort of showing how he arrived at this estimation, and he estimated the population of Bigfoots throughout the United States. I don't think it was North America. I think it was United States, if I remember correctly, at 10,000. And I was showing her what my figures were, and I don't like to get into discussions about estimates of Bigfoot, because to me it's a futile effort, because there's this thing where you can't know possibly how many there are. We know that there's no U.S. census. There's nobody going out there in the forest and everything taking census, you know,
Yeah, that's
to
true.
give us an official count. All we can do is judge. All we can judge by is the number of reports and what witnesses say, right? But I know for a fact that there's there's a huge number of reports of multiple animals. What I mean by multiple animals, and the way that I classify that, is when I'm looking through reports and stuff, and they say, well, there were two or three Sasquatches, but the one that I seen most prominent in this sighting was black, 8 foot tall, blah blah blah. So when I look at this report, I note it. I make a notation on it. Multiple animals, 3 or 4, whatever it is, and put that in a separate data point. Multiple animals, and so there might be, I don't know, there might be 1,500, close to 2,000 reports like that, and some of the largest numerical uh, figures in that particular data point to a single report. In other words, some people have reported, not a lot, but some people have reported up to 20 or 15 Sasquatches in a group that they've seen. Most of them are two, most of them are 3, 4, 5, 6, but rarely do I see 20 or 15 of them in a group like that. That's a lot. So
Yeah.
when you try to give an estimate of the number of Sasquatch and stuff, I go by what the reports say, the number that they show in that report, the witnesses claim, and then I test it against the color of the Bigfoots. I track the colors of the Bigfoot, those numbers. So I look at both numbers. I look at both tables to verify. I also, within the reports, I look at the tracks. Then look at the tracks. If there's any tracks reported in the Bigfoot report, I note that and put that in the appropriate data point. And I know that each one of those data points, when they're tallied up, they should be pretty close to each other, and they are. And so I came to a figure of, I don't know. It's been a couple of weeks since I talked about that and seen that, and it ranges like, I don't know, 25, 28, 29,000, 30,000 maybe, 30,000. But we don't know what's in caves. We don't know what's underground.
Right.
We don't know. We don't know how many offspring the 30,000 had. How many kids do they have? Right? They multiply.
Right. On average, do they have one? Do they have two?
I mean, it's
time?
impossible. Yeah, it's impossible to point a finger at this.
Right, because you're talking about like gestational periods. They might birth faster than us. They might take a little longer, but they might have more. They might give birth more often throughout their lifetime than compared to humans. They might have 4 sets of births throughout their life instead of a couple or one.
Too many variables,
Yeah.
But it's a benchmark. It's something to look at, and that's all it is. I'm not saying that my work is empirical. I'm just saying this is what I learned. This is based on my research and stuff, and this is what I found. So, anyways, we've gone quite long here.
Yes, we have, Val. I appreciate that very much. Probably start landing the plane like a good friend Jeff from Pine Island Research likes to say. Before we do that, how can people contact you, get a hold of you? Is there any last things that you want to tell us? And like I said earlier, possibly looking forward to having you back on and maybe having some other people do a big group discussion and throw some ideas around. And because, we really all don't know the answers. There's obviously something going on. We see these creatures. Many people have experienced them, but there's a reason why it's hidden. There's a reason why the government keeps the curtain over top of this and all the other mysteries and stuff. So I think it'd be a good discussion.
Well, if anybody's interested, they can come on the Facebook. If they're on Facebook, they can look up Michigan Bigfoot Reports and Data, Gumshoe Guy's Corner, Gumshoe Guy is me. They can send me a personal message if they'd like. Any questions they have, they can ask. I'd be more than happy to answer them. I don't bite or anything. So
Yeah.
That's about it. I don't sell anything. No cups, no T-shirts, no beef jerky, nothing. I'm quite the boring guy.
On the contrary, I think all this information and data points that you have put together is spectacular. You guys should all join up the Facebook group, puts out wonderful information and good discussion on topics. And, I think it's really valuable information that is found nowhere else. I mean, how many reports have you gone through in total?
Well, I would say hundreds of thousands. That's a lot.
You've been doing this for 12 years, 13 years. So that's a lot. And
a lot.
Yeah, so I know the value of all that work and stuff, and the pictures and stuff that you took, and everything. I want to tip my hat to you and stuff, because there's not a lot of people doing the work that you do and stuff. There's a lot of people who want to go out there and have fun and try to get something, but no one is reading, spending hours and hours looking through the stuff and categorizing it the same way you would like a serial killer and stuff.
So Blake, if I can just add real quickly, if anybody has any Michigan Bigfoot reports, I'm kind of a stickler on the reports. I'm a moderator for Wes Germer on his Sasquatch Chronicles too. I've been with him for a number of years, And one of the things that I opine about is that, you know, everybody can tell a good story. Believe that?
Mm,
Yeah.
right.
Give me a shot of Royal Crown. I'll tell you a good story. But the difference between a good story and one that's factual is that you can provide a date, a time, a location. It doesn't have to be specific location. And I would never ask for the home address or anything like that. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in data, information, details, because the more data that you can bring together, the better you can share with people and say, hey, look, you know, this area is susceptible to Bigfoot activity and stuff based on this particular month, this particular day, around these times. Um, and by the way, incidentally, when I'm talking about this, I have to add that based on what I've seen, ladies and gentlemen listening, um, the peak times for Bigfoot activity are between the hours of 9 o'clock and 3 in the morning. 9 o'clock and 3 in the morning, at which time the further you get into the wee early morning hours of the day, the activity seems to wane and regress, and then almost, not totally, but almost becomes dormant between 6 a.m. until around 11 a.m. in the morning, 10 a.m. in the morning, at which time the whole cycle starts to progress again and build and build and build until it reaches a climax between the hours of 9 and 3 a.m. Those hours are very, very critical in Bigfoot activity and stuff. But I wouldn't know this had I not gathered the information and the data and looked at it and to see um, what is what in this kind of stuff. And to that further end, I would say that between the months of the summer months, say June, July, August, those are the peak months, Bigfoot activity. Some would argue that those are the birthing months, but I'm not so convinced that that's the case, because I've not seen anything that tells me that Sasquatches have births certain times of the years more than other times of the year. I don't see that.
Like animals typically
Yeah,
birth in spring
yeah, but
because of the harsh winter, whereas humans we choose to or can have them anytime.
so the highest propensity, the greatest time of danger, if there's any danger, comes during the hunting season between September and November. That's the time when so many people are in the woods hunting. I don't care if it's Michigan, it can be Illinois, anywhere else. That's the time when most people are out hunting, and that puts them um, in direct conflict with Sasquatch. We haven't talked about the instances of hunters confronting Sasquatch over stolen food. Of all things, you got man versus beast fighting over food. And that's what happens out there. And that's when a lot of these things happen, those particular months and stuff. So, with that, I'm going to bid all a good night. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come on, and I hope I served my time well here.
Oh, you did. You gave us more than enough, and I appreciate it very much, Val.
All right. Thank you, Blake.
Of course. Take it
See
easy,
ya.
Val.
Thank you. Bye now.
All right, guys. And that was Val Zavala. You can find him on Gumshoes Guys, Michigan Bigfoot Reports. It's a Facebook group. He's only found there. Excellent, excellent information and stuff. To answer your question of Robert Dendover and stuff, I didn't want to hold Val any longer. I believe it is, he's been on the show a couple times, so you can watch previous shows. And I believe he goes into the report of, it was in the 1600s, mid 1600s, from a French letter talking about townspeople in Michigan seeing a group of Sasquatches travel down the Tallahassee River system, and they were sighted in a couple different places. They ended up making their way to Detroit and traveling across to Harson's Island, across Lake St. Clair. I believe that is going to be one of the first ones on the map, or first sightings that Val has in Michigan that I recall and stuff. So I'm very honored to have Val on, and hopefully we'll have him on again. Maybe we could get some people in the chat, like Jeff gets like Nikki, and get a little bit of Pat action going on, and we might actually have a pretty interesting roundtable discussion on different backgrounds and research standpoints that maybe we don't always need to agree on, but I think having big discussions and getting more other people involved, like Val, and people who aren't really on the YouTube social media stuff, but are doing a lot of legwork, a lot of work that is much needed, because I don't know anyone else who's taken the time that Val has done and categorizing the reports the way he does it, and his background and experience is to be able to do it professionally like he does. Val has, if you go back, it's 25 years of law enforcement, but that doesn't include his military and some of the other stuff that he has worked on and helped with. So he's pretty good. There's a couple different interviews with Val and stuff. So we talked a little bit more about that missing person case that he dove into a little bit. He goes into more full length story on that. So if you guys are interested in that, you can look at some older ones. I know he does go a more detail about that. So you just got to give him time and stuff. It's especially if you're in his group site and stuff, a lot of these topics and subjects and different data points, he puts out for people to see. So I would definitely hit him up on there and, be polite and respectful, of course, because in that group, no trolling is allowed. And, if you're not, respectful, obviously, you probably won't be there long. So, so that's it for this Saturday night show. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I think on Tuesday we might do a part 2 of the Freeman discussion. Maybe have the live chat, the link in the live chat. Sorry, getting a little tired. For other people to come on and talk about Mr. Freeman and stuff. I watched a couple interviews, one with his son and stuff. It gave some pretty good, interesting details and stuff. Some stuff I want to bring up, and some stuff that wasn't said. I got to do a couple more things, maybe get a couple more things ready for us to watch. And so yeah, my plans is to go out in the woods tomorrow and go look for Sasquatch. But every time I hear Val, and he told me a pretty interesting story off screen about it, always makes my hair on the back of my neck raise up a little bit, because it's like, man, there is so much more than we are, currently understanding about Sasquatch, and they're not always friendly and nice, and there's a lot of missing people under extremely weird circumstances that are, not so easily explainable. And I think that with the government coming out with the UAPs in Congress and some of these videos and some of these documents and these whistleblowers, it seems like they're opening up maybe the acknowledgement that there's a little bit more out there on our own planet going on than what the public realizes and stuff. So maybe this is just another aspect of, there's so much we just don't understand of this miraculous, beautiful world that we live on. So, but without that, I'm going to be hitting the hay and getting ready for tomorrow. And hopefully everyone has a good rest of the night. God bless each and every one of you. Any comments, questions, or concerns, you can contact me on Facebook, the Lost Cryptids Conservatory Facebook group and page. We're over on Rumble and Kick and stuff, so give us a follow over on those sites. It really would help us. I appreciate everyone for joining and commenting and giving questions. Yeah, and, next time we'll have Val on and stuff. We can talk a little bit more about, how do the Bigfoots follow people home and some of these other aspects that he kind of just, barely touched on and give hints and stuff. Val, like he says, he loves to give the information, but he wants you guys to really think and to find other things that he's talked about and to, not believe everything that you're told from the official story, but you got to open up your brain and think. Val's he's a good teacher. He will show you the information and stuff and give it to you, but he's not going to give you the answers, and he isn't going to do the work for you. So yeah, there's definitely some interesting stuff. So yeah, without further ado, I appreciate everyone showing up, and we're going to do another live show on Tuesday night. And yeah, it should be pretty fun. Next time we have Val on, we'll get some other people on. I think it'd be a wonderful discussion. I'm sure Val wouldn't mind coming on other people's show too, if you guys, talk with them and all that. And all the things that he touched on and the mysterious stuff, maybe look into like this, the Texas oil guy who mysteriously died in the plane accident, who was going to come out on national TV and say and prove, that he knew what Bigfoot was, and it was going to blow the top off that story, quote unquote. So. All right, let me pull up the outro video, and then we'll be out of here once I push the right one. All right, here we go. All right, I'll catch you guys later.